All right, and we are live.
Hello everyone, I'm Beth Killough and welcome to Take a Chance Ranch. I am here with the Santa Clara Open Space Authority and I'm here with Anne Marie. I'm so excited. We did this a few months ago, actually right in the beginning of the COVID quarantine, and wow, it's been a long road. We're still here
3 months later.
Here with my friend Glenn, who is always happy to be on top of a picnic table. And we're going to be talking today about wellness, about emotional wellness, about how we take care of our mind and our bodies and our mental health, and how nature and animals are such great teachers and role models, and such an amazing, I hate to call it a tool, but an aspect of the world and that we can use to keep ourselves grounded, and that actually when we do that, our connection with nature and with animals and each other becomes so much more meaningful, and so it creates this beautiful cycle of wanting to care for the natural world, for our animal friends, and for our fellow human animals. Yes. So we are going to spend a little time together today at the ranch, and I thought that we would spend a few minutes just right here. It's not quite the entrance of the ranch, but it's kind of one of the places where when you come to visit, you really begin to engage. And I wanted just to talk about what it means to create intentional spaces around us. We know, most of us, I think, share in common the human goals of, wanting to be good people, wanting to have peace inside of ourselves, in our relationships. We want to behave in ways that are good for the world, good for ourselves, good for each other. Real basics, right? And if we boil it down just to those core values, we usually can find that we share those in common. But what happens is if we don't really get intentional about how we're going to practice that and create reminders for ourselves, we get so busy and in action, and our emotions can get the best of us, and before we know it, we're all stirred up inside, and then our mind and our emotions are kind of inadvertently running the show, and then our behavior reflects that, and it's kind of a vicious cycle. So one of the things that we can do, and you can do this anywhere, and as you're settling into this space, start to look around where you are in your world right now, whether you're in your, in like kind of makeshift office space, in a car, and you might be sitting with a mask on a park bench. You might be, maybe you're even in an open space authority park. You could be in your home, and it could be like really just in your bedroom, in your living room, in an apartment. You could be in your backyard, anywhere you are that you consider your physical space. So when we create intentional spaces, what we do is we think about, what are the things that I can put in my immediate surroundings that bring me peace and give me reminders of the things that are important to me? And they're symbols, and they can be objects, or they can just be something that sets us up environmentally to remind us to slow down, or to get grounded, or to relax. And so I wanted to show you some of the things that I've created here to give you a little inspiration. And then when we go into spaces that are not ours, like a park, for instance, and go into the natural world, we can actually see some of those that exist that are just like nature's gift. These like beautiful messages that are all around us. Like when I go hiking and I end up in like a redwood grove, and I feel contained and held, and that was just nature's creation. I get chills just talking about it. And because I practice this intentional space and really look for it, I can see where nature's created it, and I'll feel held, and it'll help me. I'll almost feel like these trees are giving me this like gentle hug, and it'll feel like this sense of safety. And so I'll stay there for a little bit and let that kind of run through me, and then I feel changed. that makes me appreciate those trees like in such a profound way. And it also makes me think, where else do I need that in my life? And then where can I give that to others? And so it's just this nice cycle, and it's about being more aware of what's happening in your space that's just occurring on its own, and then what can you put in place that helps give you reminders, because we need them. I need them. I have them all over my physical space so that everything is a reminder to me of what I'm striving for in terms of how I'm going to live my life. So I'll pause right there. It's a very wordy introduction, and see if Anne-Marie's getting any questions or comments.
We just have a couple highs. Ellen says hi. We have about 19-20 viewers right now.
Awesome.
So
Lovely.
as you come in, welcome.
Welcome.
And I don't have, I wanted to say this, I don't have Beth mic'd up, but if the sound is a little low for you guys, just let us know and we can move things around.
Yep.
Doesn't seem like there's too much of a breeze.
No, there's not too much wind today, which is great. It's been so windy here, and so it's really nice to have just a little breeze and not too hot, and it's really nice for us to spend the time together. So,
but we do want to. We do want to definitely encourage everyone to just ask questions throughout this whole live stream. That's half of it. So if you have any questions about wellness and nature's wellness, just throw them in, and Beth will do her best to answer.
I forgot to introduce myself. I just dove right into the things I like to talk about, so you probably are already getting a little bit of a feel for who I am. But just to give you a little bit of background, I'm here in Morgan Hill. This is where Take a Chance Ranch is, and this is a private ranch. And my background is I'm a licensed therapist, and I'm also a leadership coach, and I do culture consulting with teams and groups and large institutions of all different kinds, corporations, nonprofits, universities, and all of the work that we do, and all the work that I do, whether I'm doing that with therapy clients or with coaching clients, is based on the lessons that I have learned and integrated from nature and from the animals. So though I have the psychology background, and I really appreciate the ideas and the theories that come from that, and I'm trained in that world, so much of my world and my life, the things that have really taught me, have also come from this world, which has been an active part of my life since I was a little girl. So dogs and horses and nature, all the animals have been my teachers, and they've taught me and held me accountable to the lessons in a way that they've deepened my understanding of human psychology in a really profound way. So that's the kind of work that we do here at the ranch, and we let the animals and the world of the ranch, and then the unexpected things that come to the ranch and the lessons from nature be our guides, and use those to help us become more integrated, whole people.
Wonderful. Yeah, we've got some. Terry's here. She says, so excited to see this.
Yay.
Chi-Chi says hello from Berkeley.
Awesome.
Anissa says she can hear fine. Veronica says hi. Nancy says hi. So we've
Perfect.
got a crew.
Love it. I love it. And please feel free to ask questions. I think one of my greatest gifts is that I love questions. I love to ask them. I love when people ask them. I love to engage. I think it's a huge part of getting more involved in our lives, in our world, and curiosity around the natural world, which is really what we're going to talk about today, and the natural world around us and the natural world within us. And that's really what our work today and what we're going to play with today is the interchange between those. What's happening around us, what's going on within me and the nature of me, and how those feed off of each other. And like I was saying before, this beautiful cycle that the more that we let the world around us impact us and matter to us, the more we care about it and care for it. So it's like a beautiful cycle of meaning.
And we do have our first question. Anissa, I think that's how I say your name. Sorry if that's not how you pronounce it. She's wondering, can anyone go to the ranch?
Yeah, you can come to the ranch. It's not open to the public all hours, but we do all different kinds of events. And We also, right now, we have a project going that's part of a nonprofit that we've created that's called Imagine That Ventures. And what we're doing with that project is actually creating a self-guided wellness park here at the ranch. So people could come, and there's these intentional spaces. So we're going to kind of go over like what it is to have an intentional space and how to interact with it in ways that builds wellness within us and connection between us. And our goal is to create that self-guided, it's like a course basically that you can walk through, or you can have it facilitated by somebody that leads you through it. And then teaching people how to create those in their own spaces so that you can have meaningful spaces that help you be more connected to your own wellness and take on some of these practices that you can do that help you get grounded. So what we found is that if only like once a week or once a month you're doing like a wellness practice, it's not enough. And that actually we need to settle in and get ourselves re-grounded and rebalanced all day. And so learning how to build that into our world, into our environment, and how to build some habits around that is really what we're all about here. And so what we're hoping for in the future is that we can, with that wellness park, people will have open park days and people will be able to come through and do that experience. And then we also host group events that are more interactive with the animals if people want to do that kind of thing. So you can, all of the information for Take a Chance Ranch is on the website, The Circle Up Experience. So my business is called The Circle Up Experience. So we circle up and come together, as all mammals do, to share resources and protect each other and support each other. And so that's what Circle Up is all about. So it's thecircleupexperience.com, and you can read all about the ranch and what we do here. And then we partner with lovely people like Open Space so that we can bring different experiences onto their parks and to their land, and they come here to do this kind of thing because we share common missions of helping the human world get more interactive and benefit from and care for the natural world.
Love it.
Awesome. Any other questions?
That's it for now.
Okay, perfect. So this little intentional space, as you'll start to look around, is like a welcome wagon. You'll look over in the corner, that is actually about to be a chicken coop. So I'll get over here so we can. This was actually built by this amazing man named John Ponce, who is a longtime local to Morgan Hill, and he's an antique dealer, but he's also an artist. He's 92 years old, and he just built this for us, and it's on an antique wagon chassis and wheels. And our chickens, who are not quite old enough to go in here, they're going to live in here. Oh. And so it's like a little caravan wagon, and they'll have a chicken yard around them. But John Ponce built this and delivered it about a week ago, and we're so excited about it. And it carries history that's unknown to us, but I love when we can find old things and bring them into our environment because they carry the history of how humans have interacted in their environment, in their world, with animals. You know, that these wagons remind us of what life used to be, and sometimes we get so far away from nature in our modern technological lives that we forget that we used to be very reliant on the land, on nature, on animals. And so I love having reminders of that all over my environment. And they bring kind of a humility, not a humiliation, but humility, which is like taking some of the ego out of like we can be very proud of our human accomplishments, and then we can be humbled about the simplicity of who we are and what we bring. And it's great to have a balance of those. So it was really fun to work with this beautiful 92-year-old man he was at Pearl Harbor, and then to have some of that history here that people can enjoy, and a beautiful home for chickens. So this is part of when people visit, they see see some of these pieces of art. Definitely actually built this wagon as well. And I'm going at an okay pace.
Yes.
And then what you'll see is as you enter the space, and we were really intentional about this, like we wanted the ranch to kind of open up to you, like it opens its arms to you. And so when you think about where you are right now, and you think about like how are you setting up your space, and is it holding you in a way that feels like comforting and peaceful? Does it feel welcoming to you and to others? And it isn't so much about the aesthetic or the decorating, it's about the emotional experience of the space. So this is the kind of the entrance to, and you can see right beyond the hills, all the way off in the distance is the Tilton Ranch, and then right beyond that would be the Coyote Valley space. So we're right on the edge of a lot of open space right here, and so it's really important to mark this spot. You can see Georgie; she's like guarding the open space. But it's important to mark this spot as a beginning to open space, and to look at it as kind of a welcoming. It's welcoming us to feel more open, and so that's what I hope when people come here, whatever it is that you're guarding or within yourself, whatever it is that's holding you back, that as you come here, it starts to unfold, and that we can breathe a little better, and that as we do that, we feel more aligned with ourselves. And nature just has an amazing way of doing that, and I think a lot of us have noticed that during this time of quarantine. There's been so much commentary in the world about the power of the outdoors and the natural world and how healing it's been. And I think it's helped people really return to that in a very, very powerful way.
Definitely agree.
Good. Okay, so I just wanted to show people in our indoor space. I try to bring a lot of like the natural world into the indoor space, and so if I find things out in the natural world that are interesting and safe to bring in, like a little nest. All of the nests here at the ranch are really fun because they have pieces of our world in them. So they'll have sheep wool and horsehair, and look, you'll see little pieces of like thread from the hay string, and so when I find those, and I found that on the ground, and so I felt like it was okay to bring it in, and I think it's really important for us to be respectful of what we find in nature and not be, pillaging. But I'll find, antlers and things like that and bring them in. And what I'm doing when I'm bringing that into my space is I'm trying to remind myself of, I use that phrase, the nature within me. And so I'll just go back to that for a moment. So we're mammals, and we are animals. So we're human animals in the mammal world. And we have all of these incredible instincts and sensitivities. And the reason why my work with people involves my animals is because they help us reconnect to that. And the world of nature does as well, and it helps us reset. And so that nature within, we can lose touch with when we're stuck in our head, when we're stuck in thought and intellectualizing, when we're talking a lot, when we're interacting with each other, and when we're too busy. Mm-hmm. And so what happens when we bring the world of animals and nature and either into our environment to remind us of that, or go outside, even for a few minutes, go outside and look around, we're actually reconnecting. It never stopped being there. The nature within is always alive. It's alive and well no matter what. But it helps us reset to it, and that part of us will always it'll always look for balance. It knows how to find balance. And because of that mammal piece that's all instinct driven, it's a survival trait within us to know how to reset and rebalance. But if we are caught up in all those things I mentioned, we can't access it as well. So when we're thinking about bringing nature and creating intentional spaces in our indoor environments or our outdoor environments, we're looking for reminders that can help us. Where do I need to reset? How do I need to slow down? And it doesn't mean slow down my whole life, it just means slow down this moment. And every place that we can do that, it starts to weave together a day. It starts to weave together a home. It starts to weave together a relationship with yourself and with others. So I highly recommend finding symbols. So like when I see these, I remember the story of finding it, but I also remember that that was like the home of a bird. And I think about those birds, and then I start to get reconnected to that part of me that knows how to take care of myself, how to create a nest, what's important around that. Just the simplicity of it, because we get very complex and complicated with our beautiful human brains. We love to do that. And trust me, I love it too, but it can get out ahead of us. Yeah. And it really, the thing about it is that it gets out ahead of us without us realizing.
Right.
And before we know it, that's where some of those mental wellness pieces will start to take a hit. We get too far out ahead of ourselves and away from that nature within, and too far out of balance, and that's when we start to get symptoms. Yeah. Oh. First we get signs, then we get symptoms.
And what are the difference between symptoms and signs?
So I like to think about it, and I've learned this from the dogs and the horses and just all the animals. We have sheep here as well, and that's Georgie. She's camera shy apparently. We have sheep, and then now we have these chickens, so they're my new culture teachers and leadership coaches, 15 of them. And what you'll notice in the natural world is, and I think it is this phenomenon of pressure. So I like to think of it as like a change in energy, whether something is coming on stronger or faster, or showing up with more presence or more intention. There's a pressure exists. So pressure in the natural world is completely normal. It's just part of life. As that pressure increases, if things don't adjust, that pressure without any release turns into tension. And then we start to head into the realm towards stress. So it's on a very subtle continuum, and in the rest of the animals, when they start to feel pressure, they don't shoo it away. They don't judge themselves for it. They don't take it on and say like, that's just my lot in life. Like, they adjust right away. And so that's why they don't have stress symptoms.
Interesting.
So we hold it and we don't adjust.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of like blows your mind, right? Yeah. So that was really like a core lesson that I learned from animals.
Right.
And it applies to the human animal exactly the same. So our animal body, when we start to feel pressure, that's a sign. It's a signal that something needs to shift. And if we don't shift it, the signal will get louder. And if we don't shift that, it starts to send more signals into our body, and that's where they become symptoms.
Right.
Yeah.
Like physical symptoms.
Correct.
Even. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then it becomes a state of being, and then it becomes a trait.
Wow.
So a state becomes a trait. So that's the continuum. So what we want to do is to create practices or symbols around us that remind us to stay tuned in so that we can make those adjustments all day long. And that helps us with a very just a foundational wellness piece.
Wow.
It's way simpler than, So we have a lot of complex theories and kind of like high intellectual concepts in psychology.
Yeah.
And I do love those, but this piece around just pressure and thinking about adjusting to pressure, it's so simple. And if you can watch it and practice it with the animals, you can get a feel for it. But you can do this in your own home And even right now, if you think about wherever you've put yourself to watch this, like where are you holding pressure in your body? So you tune in first, like what's happening inside of me? What do I need to adjust? And so, is there something I can do environmentally to adjust that helps me? So maybe I'm not really breathing. I'm just doing shallow breathing. So I need to make my body more. Or I'm holding emotional pressure, or I've really been in my head, so there's a lot of thinking pressure. And those are all, people won't even realize they're holding it's tension, but it started as just pressure in the body, and then you end up with like neck pain and back pain and jaw clenching and all of that. That's on that pressure continuum.
Wow.
Yeah. So wherever you are, you can always tune into that first awareness channel, that first channel, which is what's happening inside of me right now, and where do I need to just make the slightest adjustment. I have to change my life.
Right.
I'm just going to change this moment. And that actually, for me, is so, like, gives me so much hope. I'm like, I don't have to change my whole life. I just have to change this one little thing, and look at how much things can release. All right, I got stuck in it.
All right, yeah.
Let's get out of the corner.
Let's move on.
Okay. So, you can just take a look around and you'll see more. There's symbols everywhere, and they are really intentional. And I'll have things like the word gather, especially in a space where we're going to do group experiences. And sometimes I'll have a little, like, in the bathroom, there's a plaque, and it says there's a message there. And there's little messages everywhere. They're for me, and they're for whoever is here, in order to help us, remind us those pieces of language, or that, something like the horse running, or the stirrups with the rocks on them. They're going to mean something to you if you slow down and look for it. And they mean something to me, and they help remind me of, what I'm shooting for here within myself and in my connection with other people. It looks like this door closed, but we're going to just come into the horse barn. We're making a little circle here. Say hi to some friends. Watch your stuff.
Thank you.
Here's another set of symbols on the wall if you want to take a look. And again, just think about what kind of symbols do you want to put in your environment that help you stay connected to the things that matter to you, and who you want to be and how you want to be. Sally's having some lunch. Let's see if Rosie wants to say hi. Hey, girl.
Hello.
Oh, now you want to say hi. Hello, this is Rosie.
Hi, Rosie. When I was last here, or when I was here last time, I remember you talking about, you used that example of animals, and that the horse just comes over, the horse is thirsty, the horse just comes over and takes a drink. It isn't this whole like, oh, what are the other horses gonna think, or am I really thirsty? It's like this just mind to body connection. It's just
They are
free.
radical practicers of self-care. And so they're incredible teachers of it, because they don't hold back that self-care. And so if you think about it in terms of being social animals that live in groups, so they're herd animals, but so are we. And so they have to take care of themselves individually, so that that the resource of who they are can actually benefit the group. So if they're not taking care of themselves, they can't be helpful to the group. And the same thing is true with us. And typically, if one of them has a need or an awareness or a concern, it actually is something the whole group needs to be aware of. And so they don't do a lot of holding that back, or any holding that back, especially if given the freedom. So right now, these horses are in these stalls, and I put them here because I was riding them earlier, and they're having some lunch and drying off. but they actually have really shown me that they do like coming in here at times, but generally they want to be out in pasture as a herd, and that's mostly how they live. So that they can take care of each other, take care of themselves, and let all those signals pass through the herd. But you're right, they don't do all that self-judgment and self-consciousness and that part of our brain that's amazing thinker, problem solver, that writes novels and does incredible math formulas. It's the same part of our brain that actually has a glitch around taking care of ourselves.
Wow.
The neocortex is like, it's a miracle, and it is actually, it interferes with us, with our wellness.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's a brain glitch.
Yeah.
That's what I call it. It's hard to call it that because it's like this powerhouse supercomputer,
Right.
but like it is. All computers have a glitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So,
Right.
how are we doing?
Right about half an hour.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So we're gonna go in here with Reva, and let's see if we can get some dogs to come with us. Come here, Georgie, Glenn. I don't want to scream into your
Oh, that's
camera.
okay.
Come on, guys. Tyler. Come on, big boy. Okay.
The gang's all here.
The gang's all here. Yeah. So, so when I come into a new space, even if it's my own space, and this is one of my favorite places on the ranch, this little spot under this tree, I just like to remember that I'm bringing my animal body to a new spot. And so I like to just give myself a moment that I call settling in. And my daughter taught that practice to me when she was about 4 years old, and this practice of settling in is just this idea of like, we take ourselves to a new spot, allow a transition to happen, and the animals and our children will teach us this because they don't have the filters of that self-consciousness, especially when they're young. So what they need, they just talk about, they just insist upon, and the animals are the same way. And so you'll notice as we settle into this spot, I am not seeing where, the dogs will settle in as well. It'll take them a few minutes. So they're kind of doing their own things. They're looking around, they're keying into the environment, they're taking care of themselves, they're tuning in with all of us that are here, and then that awareness will start to quiet down a little bit, and they'll be able to just release that pressure. But when we come into a new environment, even if it's one that we're familiar with, our brain is busy trying to reestablish itself in that and reorient. So I just give myself a moment to just settle and kind of like look around, and actually in doing that, you'll notice all these amazing things. Like, I hadn't been here for a little bit, and this tree above me had a whole layer of leaves, and then the ones above that, like the upper canopy, hadn't opened yet. And so I just noticed that they've started to, which is really lovely. And I'm hearing some bugs in the background now, and like I'm hearing a neighbor with a weed whacker. And so as I settle into this space, I'm tuning in with what's going on inside of me. These are, I call these like the natural leadership awareness channels. What's happening within me, what's going on with you. So I'm noticing the animals and Anne-Marie and Facebook Live, and then what's happening between us. And I noticed that Glenn settled right next to me, and there's Georgie's behind me, and we're kind of starting to sync up. I'm starting to feel like things are syncing up a little bit. And then that would be the third channel, is like, how are we together? And then that fourth channel of awareness is what's happening around us. So that's the tree and that bug and the weed whacker, and kind of expanding that scope. So so I wanted to just take a couple of minutes and talk about the power of expanding, widening our scope, and allowing ourselves to be in these intentional spaces, take ourselves into new spaces, but when we're there, be intentional about how we are there. And so allow this idea of scope is that we let that awareness of what's happening around us and within us really get bigger than we're used to. And so when we do that, we're more interactive with our environment and letting it interact with us. And that helps that nature within piece that I was talking about earlier really sync up. And I always think about it like plugging into a electrical socket. It's like this nature power socket. So Tyler's come over. So I can start to feel that we've settled in here into this new space. I think what we're used to doing, and I know it's the way that I used to live, was just like muscle through all of that. And I think we can do that even when we're doing something that's supposed to be like a wellness practice. Like I'm gonna go for a hike, or I'm gonna go to a yoga class, or do something like sit outside and meditate, and we rush and we don't give ourselves the opportunity to just settle and transition. And it doesn't take long. It's taking a little long right now because I'm talking. But actually, if we just quiet down and I'm trying to teach how to do it, so we're taking a little more time with it. But it's really just about letting our curiosity, letting our mind wander, noticing what we notice in ourselves, in each other, and in our environment, and breathing, and then noticing when our body just begins to actually feel safe. Yeah. Our brain is scanning our environment it's like every quarter of a second for safety. Whether our survival brain, our limbic system. Yeah, it just
always on alert. Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
That is.
So when we allow ourselves to settle and reorient in those transitions, it actually allows it to quiet down a little bit. And so it stays in like a hyper aroused scanning if we skip over that. And so it actually is taking up a lot of energy and attention. And then we can't tune in to things like, what do I need, or how are things between us, or we're not really even intentional about our safety, even though our brain's doing it right. So I use this daily reader, and this is another piece of, I have things like this all over my house, my barn. We have a labyrinth all the way in the back, walking meditation labyrinth, which is another intentional space. And again, like, you can build these in your kitchen. So in my kitchen, right on the kitchen island, I have a couple daily readers. I have a really beautiful plant. I keep flowers there, and a couple special rocks that I have found, a feather, and they're all reminders to me. And I could go into details about what they symbolize for me, but it's personal. It's actually really important that you find the reminders and symbols that matter to you. So if you're trying to be a more compassionate person, what do you put there that reminds you of that? Or if you're trying to be more aware and grounded, what do you put there? And where can you place things in your house, in your surroundings, in your car, on your body? I have a horseshoe. I wear this bracelet. They're reminders to me of the things I'm trying to stay aware of and how I'm acting. So this book takes center stage in my kitchen, and it's a daily reader. So every day of the year, there's a different reading. It's called The Book of Awakening, and it's by Mark Nepo, and he's a poet, and it's very guided in nature, and regardless of what kind of spiritual background you have, or religious background, culture background, it's very inclusive. There'll be a quote, there's quotes on a lot of the readings, and they come from all different just traditions, and that part feels really lovely and global to me, and inclusive. And so I can't say that I do the daily reading every day, but I do it a fair amount. And then I lead a women's group called the World's Okayest Moms. And we have 2 days a week on Tuesdays and Fridays. We do a call and we do the reading and talk about things based on the reading. So today's reading really struck me especially about what we're working on in this live space around widening our scope and being more aware, and how that can actually benefit us. And so I thought I would read it to our listeners and viewers. It's called A Wider Horizon, and there is a quote by R.D. Chin, and the quote is, "The eyes experience less stress when they can look upon a wider horizon." And so that part of us that hyper focuses is this incredible part of our instinct that's a predatory. We are predatory mammals, humans are, and hunters, even if we don't do that. And so we can get very fixated on one thing and hyper focused. But what this quote says is that eyes experience less stress when they can look upon a wider horizon. And we want to be able to use that part of us that can see more and take in more. And that when we do that and let what we see impact us, it actually will help us. And then, as a result of feeling better and feeling more balanced and settled inside, we do better with our environment. So I just loved that quote so much. And then he goes on, and it's a short reading, so I'll go ahead and read it. And again, this is the Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo. "Whether it be physics or architecture, or Eastern forms of meditation or Western forms of prayer, every field of inquiry affirms the fact that the wider our view, the less isolated we are. The more connected we stay to everything larger than us, the less turbulent our time on earth. This is why it helps to share our journey with others, because in so doing we become a chorus of voices, and the stress of going solo lessens once we discover that we are not alone. As light, when confined, turns to heat, the stuff of our lives, when confined, ignites brush fires out of our isolation. I felt the difference dramatically when joining a wellness group during my cancer experience. Alone, I was feeling the heat of dying, but once voicing my pain in a circle of others on the same path, my heart relaxed back into the light of living. So when you see someone stumbling forward with a stone in their heart, simply go near them and listen. When the pains of living feel sharp, open up your attention and give it freely, and the connections will even out the sharpness. When things feel heavy, reach out to whomever is near and distribute the weight." So, this is a quote this is a circle up quote. So what we do here, this idea of having this animal body that is actually loves to interact with nature because it actually helps it balance. And so this idea of waking up this animal body, when we take our animal body, when we give it more presence and attention in our lives, and we take it into whatever we're experiencing, we widen our view. And in doing so, we wake up this part of us. And when we do, we're actually able to be more available to those around us and to ourselves and to our environment. And so I loved the quote because I think especially right now, we need to keep widening our view. We can get very upset in our own little organism and become reactive and angry and scared. And when we start to widen our view and we let lessons of the natural world and things that actually help us rebalance, we bring that in, it can help us settle enough to know what's needed. And so even though there might be a lot of things that we need to attend to in the world, things that are distressing and scary and traumatic that are going on, this is really how we can help starts with really settling that nature within. And so I come to these intentional spaces so that I can do that, and I put them all over my life, and so that I can do that. And then when I go out into the world, I look for where they occur naturally. And the other thing I do when I'm out in the world is I take pictures of them. So when I see things that are reminders of that balance and those things that have woken up that nature within me, I'll take photos of them. And it's kind of become an art practice for me, but also a spiritual and a wellness practice. And so I wanted to bring all of you to this lovely little space. And I have the practice of sitting with my animals and sitting under trees. And I just invite you to, you may not have a ranch to go to, but you have nature within. And you have it, even if you all you're able to do is open your window and stick your head out the window and have an intentional space right there with looking out the one window that's available to you, or stepping out your door and you're in a city environment or a suburban environment. There's a natural world around you and within you, and they really want to sync up. So
beautiful.
Yeah. Are there questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, so we're at 1:45. So if anyone has any questions that they want to ask Beth before we sign off, I'll give everyone a couple minutes to put your questions in. Thanks for joining us if you've stuck around.
Yeah. Let's see. Maybe I wonder if as people may be asking questions or wanting to ask questions, I'm going to walk over and say hi to Reva.
Yeah. And definitely, like, another interesting thing about, if you don't live in the country or you don't have a ranch, there's lots of nature in your neighborhood. Not in everyone's neighborhood, but there are little pockets, and sometimes that's a neighborhood park, sometimes that's a garden or a yard or a community garden down the street. There's so much, so close.
And, we think there isn't, even in a city, but if you go into any city and you could be on like a busy city street and it's paved and there's concrete everywhere and it's noisy, but if you don't listen to that and instead like really tune in to that animal in you and start looking closely, widening your view, right? Just like the reading said, how do I widen my view? You will see all kinds of bugs and birds and plants and this incredible resilience. Like, nature finds its way into all the places where human nature has interfered. It is so resilient and adaptive. And so that's actually one of my favorite things to do, is to look for the ways that nature has insisted on being present.
Yes.
And so if you're in an environment that feels very paved, like that Joni Mitchell song about paving paradise and putting up a parking lot, like, even if that's occurred, look for where nature's still showing up. And as you do that, the nature within you, that human animal that we're talking about, that mammal that actually knows what it needs, it comes alive. So the hunt for that, like the seeking, the noticing, that practice, especially when it's hard, it really ignites that. So I will find myself sometimes even more grounded in nature when I'm having to work for it. So even on your city sidewalks and your parking lots and the places where we've kind of messed it up a little, I think those are great challenges. They're great nature challenges, and remembering that we are nature as well.
Beautiful. Yeah. So we have a thank you from Mary. Thank you for the lovely presentation. There aren't any questions in the comments right now, but I mean, I would love to just open it up. If you're watching this after it's live, feel free to just add a comment. And Raphael says, thank you for showing how important nature is. Thanks for watching.
You are important as a part of nature. And I think that's really my core message for humans, is to really own that about ourselves. Yeah. Because we often separate them. And so really, I think the core piece to take away from today is to really, own that about ourselves, about the nature that we have within it, and that part of us knows exactly what we need. Yeah.
Nancy says, thank you, enjoyed this. So
I'm so glad.
Thanks to everyone.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, and thank you, Beth,
for
tuning in and coming in here.
Yeah.
All right.
Wonderful.
Thank you. And I'll finish it up. See everyone next time. Bye.